Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Happy Friday. Got a lot to go over. Slowed down a little bit earlier this week, drinking from a fire hose. Today, I just want to bask in the glory of RFK Jr. officially being nominated to head the Department of Health and Human Services. I'm just going to soak it all up. I just want it all just injected into my veins, please, okay? Because this man, come January, will now be in charge of this just giant balloon of public health agencies, but among them, the NIH, the CDC, the FDA. I would say 3 departments, federal departments in this country that are responsible for the declining health of Americans. And I just want to play a clip of RFK while he was touring, I guess, with Tucker Carlson. He had this to say about his partnership, his alliance with Donald Trump to, of course, transform this country's health. Watch.
Since 2005, I spend 30 minutes praying every day when I get out of bed. And my prayer is this. I ask God for 19 years to put me in a position where I could end the chronic disease epidemic and bring health back to our children. And in August, God sent me Donald Trump.
Whew. Someone's cutting onions in here. So you're going to hear a lot from the left. You probably already have. You're going to later in this program. You're going to hear a lot from the left about how dangerous this is. We're all going to die. Oh my God, RFK Jr. is going to ban vaccines and they're going to bring all these diseases back into this country. All kinds of bullshit you're going to hear. Okay. But the fact of the matter is this. This man has spent decades of his life fighting for the health of Americans, and in particular, American children, okay? He has the Children's Health Defense that he has been building for years, for decades. Let me read you their mission. Our mission is ending childhood health epidemics by eliminating toxic exposure. We will restore and protect the health of children by eliminating environmental exposures, holding responsible parties accountable, and establishing safeguards to prevent future harm of children's health. And they have. They've sued and been very, very successful in this. Okay, this man is fighting for American children. And thank God someone is, because there is a health crisis in this country. Look around, okay? Nearly 75% of adults are now obese or overweight. That's 3/4 of United States adults overweight. More than 1 in 3 children also meet that criteria. It wasn't always like this, guys. It is now. And with obesity comes chronic disease, comes cancer, comes diabetes. With those diseases come trillions of dollars in the next decade the United States is going to spend on treatments for those diseases. Now, I didn't say solutions, treatments, ongoing treatments. There's never a solution. There's always a treatment. And so you start looking at this and you start looking at these other developed countries. And you start to wonder, why do we have a problem that other developed countries don't seem to have? Well, in part, our government allows poison in our foods that other countries don't. Toxic food dyes, carcinogens, that means something that can cause cancer. Flame retardants, yeah, That's in some of our food and other just toxic junk that big food is adding to their processed crap to make it pretty, to make it shiny, to keep it on the shelf longer, to increase their profit margins by keeping the costs down. We could talk about the obvious ones. Mountain Dew. Why is it that color? Skittles, Gatorade. It's like glow in the dark. Basically, if it's a weird neon glow in the dark color, that's probably a problem. But then you take the more benign looking foods. Okay, so take like wheat thins, for example. You may think, I'm being healthy because it has wheat in the name, so it must be healthy. Well, wheat thins actually contain a chemical called BHT, which some studies have shown to be a carcinogen. And while other countries have decided to ban wheat thins, they've decided to err on the side of caution to protect their people, because that's actually one of the few things that the federal government is supposed to do. These other countries are like, you know what? We're going to err on the side of caution. Our government is like, yeah, let's just roll the dice and just see what happens. Well, we see what has happened. Big food is poisoning us. Big pharma is profiting off of it. And none of them actually have any incentive to change that, okay? Because they're making money off of keeping you sick and unhealthy. And now, enter RFK Jr., okay? A man who I would say, you guys who are listening on audio podcasts, you're missing it, okay? Just by looking at him, you could probably take his advice on health. Like if he's going to give this man, look at him. Look at him. This man is 70 years old. If he's giving me any advice on health, I'm taking it, all right? At 70, he's in better physical condition than most males half of his age. He's clearly doing something right here, okay? I mean, according to, I don't know, my own eyeballs, you can see that. But according to the leftist hacks over on CNN, there is literally no one worse for this position than RFK. Watch.
This is somebody who has been, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has been pushing quackery, who has been pushing lies, who has been pushing conspiracy theories. You've been talking to experts in the health community, the medical community.
Oh, good. The experts.
Preparing
what do the experts
for him,
say?
RFK Jr., to be given some sort of role in health. What have they said to you?
Oh, please tell us what the experts say.
It's not often that the entire medical and public health community is going to be in lockstep on something, but they're pretty close on this in terms of their significant concerns, horror even. Somebody said to me today, I can't think of any single individual who'd be more damaging to public health than RFK.
Oh, yes, the big, scary, ripped 70-year-old. Uh-oh. Well, here's why they're upset. Here's why they're scared. The medical industrial complex has been put on notice that accountability is coming. The way you prevented early treatments during COVID so you could promote your poison poke while millions of Americans died, accountability is coming. Your precious God, Anthony Fauci, who covered up America's involvement in gain-of-function research in Wuhan that caused a global pandemic, accountability is coming.
And you think Fauci is the devil. Would you prosecute him if you ever got to the White House?
I mean, if there were crimes that he committed, of course we would, I would tell the Attorney General to prosecute him and not hold off.
Accountability is coming. Okay? Donald Trump made a lot of mistakes his first time in office. It was an unprecedented pandemic. And he made mistakes there. And this is how you course correct. Accountability is coming. And they know it. Moderna stock dropped over 5% when RFK appointment was announced. Big pharma stocks have, Pfizer's down almost 3%. It's not a coincidence that both of these companies manufactured a COVID vaccine that harmed millions. We all see the writing on the wall. Now, RFK said he prayed every day for God to allow him the opportunity to save our children. Well, I prayed every day for God to bring us to this moment, to give us an RFK. I prayed every day that someone, anyone at that level within the federal government would stop allowing food companies to poison us. To start sounding the alarm on the CDC childhood vaccination schedule, which has never actually been tested for safety. Did you know that? Did you know that? The schedule that they recommend that you implement for your children has never been studied in conjunction with one another. The visits that they tell you need to make, where they give a tiny newborn 8 different vaccines at once, they've never actually studied whether that's a problem. They've never studied them in conjunction with one another. That someone that wants to talk about even the safety studies that they do require, which, by the way, are not the same rigorous studies that are required for regular drugs. Even the safety studies that they do require don't actually have a true placebo. This isn't a saline solution, okay? The government allows these companies to conduct their own safety studies in which they can use other vaccines as placebos. How about all of the fraud, all of the manipulation that these pharmaceutical companies are taking so that they can hide statistically significant issues with these studies? It's all documented. How about that there are now 81 doses of vaccines that they want to give your kids before the age of 18 that contain 249 viral, bacterial, or mRNA strains? 81 doses. How about someone that can talk about prior to the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, which granted blanket immunity to vaccine manufacturers if their product harms or kills people? There were like 4 recommended vaccines. There were 4. And you had what, 20-something doses? There were 4. And then enter the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. And now they get blanket immunity. So imagine that. You give a company the opportunity to manufacture something that they can make millions of dollars off of, and you take away any liability that they may have if their product harms someone. And what do you know? They just keep coming up with new vaccines you just have to have inserted into the CDC recommended schedule, or you could die. That's the scare, right? That's the fear mongering. You need the chickenpox vaccine or you'll die. Wrong. People lived with chickenpox for forever and forever and forever. And only until a chickenpox vaccine came into play did you start seeing the headlines that the chickenpox was deadly. You need the Hep B vaccine at birth. Your tiny newborn child, not even 24 hours old, needs the Hep B vaccine at birth. Because what? They're going to become a drug dealer? Or they'll die. Wrong. There's no reason to just blanket give every single baby in this country a vaccine for hepatitis B. They're not having unprotected sex. They're not sharing needles. If you wanted to make that argument, you would need to make that argument in a very slim, a very tiny, minute percentage. You may want women to consider the risks. Tell me why it's in the CDC recommended schedule for every single child who is born in this country. You don't need it. Your child needs the COVID vaccine or they'll die. Wrong. And you know what? I'm going to get real controversial now. I can't wait to see what the overlords on social media want to do to me now. The one vaccine that they keep going back to is always polio. But polio was eradicated through vaccines. You could bring back polio. Even the talking points on the polio vaccine are completely misguided. Polio was already decreasing on its own before the vaccine was even introduced. Here's the chart. Look at how far it's declining in not just the United States, but Great Britain. Already on the decline, and they introduced the vaccine. And guess what's given credit for the decline? The vaccine. Guess what else happened? Better sanitation. So many of the things that we are spoon-fed in this country regarding health and medicine and science is just a profitable lie. That's all it is. And RFK Jr. knows it and is ready to unleash himself on all of these liars who have been keeping you sick and unhealthy. Now, this is something that, for those of you who are maybe new viewers of this show, I have been spending the better part of a decade sounding the alarm on while being called crazy, anti-vaxxer. Oh, by the way, I was like the OG of that. I'm so grateful for those of you who came around during COVID, who really started questioning things during COVID. We've been out here for a while fighting the good fight. Anti-vaxxer, science denier. You get called all the names in the world. And I honestly thought, I remember having this conversation with my mother. I thought it would take, this was 10 years ago. I thought it would take 50 years for all of these truths that I knew, that I researched, that I saw being covered up at the highest levels of the federal government. I thought it would take 50 years for all of these truths to become mainstream. I really did. 10 years ago, I really did. And I just could not be prouder of this country. I really couldn't. Because for all the Joy Reids of the world and the Sunny Hostins of the world, they're all very mad at white women for not voting for a fellow woman. They saw the women at the polls. They thought they had it in the bag because women must just be voting on the right to kill their own babies. Okay, so for all these dummies who are very mad at white women, they say white women are the problem. They didn't vote for Kamala. I could not be prouder of the moms in this country who voted for their children's health, who voted for their children's future, who voted for their children's safety. I am just so excited. I was watching this clip of RFK. My son came in the room and I had this look on my face. I'm just so proud. And I had this look on my face like I was about to cry. And he said, "Why do you look like that, Mom?" And I was like, I'm so happy for you. Like, I'm looking at him and I'm like, I'm just so thrilled for you that we have a real opportunity to change this country for the better, to transform this country in such a way that I don't have to worry that the food that they feed you somewhere else, that the food that they're giving away in schools, that the food that all of this food is going to cause damage to your body. Like, I'm just so excited for you, son. You don't get it. That's okay. That's okay. I know you don't get it. I am just so excited for you. Your future just got a whole lot brighter. And I just want to, let's just bask in that, okay, for as long as we can. Because if this is done correctly, which I do believe it will be, because it's RFK, this is country changing stuff, and it's country changing stuff that lasts for decades and decades and decades. I just could not be more excited about it. I want to bring in the panel. You know, I mentioned the left is melting down. We should talk about that a little bit. First, I want to thank our sponsor, Preborn. So I just mentioned, all right, these women, these leftist hacks on mainstream media, they want to be like, I can't believe white women didn't vote to kill their own babies. Yeah. It turns out we love our kids that are here right now. And what Preborn is doing on the issue of abortion is just so incredible. And it's really very simple. They're not telling lies. They're not lying to these scared women who are pregnant. They come into this Preborn facility and they are actually shown the truth. It's the truth they're not going to get at Planned Parenthood. The truth is, here is your baby on the ultrasound. Here is your baby's heartbeat. This is your baby. This is not a clump of cells. And when Preborn just does that one simple thing, these women are like twice as likely to choose life. These ultrasounds obviously cost money. It's $28 for each ultrasound. So I'm going to challenge you guys. How many babies' lives can you save? $28, one ultrasound, $140, 5 ultrasounds. How much can you donate? How many babies can you help us save? You can go to preborn.com/Sarah, make that tax-deductible donation before the end of the year over at preborn.com/Sarah. All right, welcome to the panel. We have Matthew Marsden, Blaze TV contributor and actor and producer extraordinaire, along with, we got another actor extraordinaire, actor, musician, host, Ian Crossland, in the house, in the flesh. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, me too, man.
I'm like, when was last? It's been like years since I've seen you.
At least one.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than one. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you found yourself in my neck of the woods.
Yes.
And on such a just glorious week of incredible names being added to Trump's cabinet list, all of these nominations. And so I just got done talking about RFK Jr., who, a little bit of a fan, have been for longer than a decade. And you're watching the left just totally melt down over how, oh my God, this is going to be so dangerous. And I do want to show, let's look at our, who is this, Assistant Secretary to HHS currently. And yeah, there's the difference there. So we're supposed to be concerned that our public health is at risk because we're putting the jacked guy instead of the guy who doesn't know that he's, you know what, I'm going to try to stay on YouTube. So I'm just going to go ahead and.
That's a beautiful woman. That's a beautiful woman. Darn it.
And so I wanted to go through some of this leftist, temper tantrums of this really fit, buff 70-year-old man being in charge of America's health. Here's Stephen Colbert. Watch.
We still don't know the entire parade of clowns, degenerates, and in-laws that Trump will have running this country, but one guy we know will have a major role is RFK Jr. Now, if you're not familiar with him, it's probably because he ran for president and nobody cared. But we're familiar with him because he's done a whole mess of crazy stuff, including, but not limited to, admitting to dumping a dead bear in Central Park as a prank, living with an emu who would regularly attack his wife, owning two ravens who meditate with him every morning, bragging about his freezer full of roadkill, and beheading a whale, then strapping it to the roof of his minivan for a 5-hour drive home.
Like, this is all
now,
that they
sounds
have.
Deranged, but he actually has a good reason for all of this. A worm got into his brain and ate a portion of it and then died. So, naturally, this whale decapitating, bear dumping, walking, talking worm cemetery is who Donald Trump wants to put in charge of our nation's health. Here he is last week.
Robert F. Kennedy cares more about human beings and health and the environment than anybody. I'm going to let him go wild on health. I'm going to let him go wild on the food. I'm going to let him go wild on medicines.
Oh, good. Because that's exactly how I like my medicine. Wild. It's just like the directions on the pill bottle say, go crazy balls every 2 to 4 hours with food.
I just, you have to wonder, someone like Stephen Colbert, is it the ignorance, or is it that he knows that one of their main advertisers, sponsors of, the reason why they exist is Big Pharma? I can't figure it out, because I'm just it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look around at this country. I just went through it. It's nearly 75% of adults in this country are obese or overweight. 1 in 3 kids are obese or overweight. Look around you. We are all chronically ill. Why would you look at this and be like, oh, great, we're going to actually change the way we do things around here? It's going so well. I can't imagine why someone would come in and shake the system up. I don't, it's is it ignorance? Is it more sinister for someone like a Stephen Colbert? Because I know the medical industrial complex knows. But someone like a Stephen Colbert, is it he's just so elitist? He just thinks, trust the experts? Where are we at with this?
I think it is that he's trusting.
Yeah.
He's trusting people. It could be willful ignorance. It's easier to choose not to think about, because his sponsors are, and he's surrounded by people that are like, right, Trump's bad. Everything that he touches, therefore. Right. Because I was thinking as this was going on, if RFK was with Kamala and the system was inverted and Kamala had won the nomination, he'd be talking highly about
1 million percent. 1 million percent.
Full on in the zone, whatever that zone happens to be. I don't know. I've always kind of looked down on Stephen Colbert since he did his early show with what was it, where he pretended to be a Republican on his show. And he would just say war is good, but it was like he was subverting people and actually making them think. He was predictive programming. I don't know. I didn't really like that shtick of his. I've always kind of found him to be a bit of a. I don't want to be too ad hominem about the guy, but I mean, it is shocking. It's still shocking to hear him say it. You would think a guy of that level of intellect, but the problem with high intellect and low wisdom is you just repeat things very well.
Right.
He kind of strikes me as doesn't have a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
They're not funny. And
That's takeaway is just, they're just not funny.
They're just not funny because wokeism kills comedy. Here's what it's all about, in my opinion. They are narcissists, and narcissists cannot be wrong. All right, it's fatal to them. to be told that, or to be rebuked in any way. And what you have is a bunch of, because we've been there, right? Hollywood is all about telling you how great you are. But you know what doesn't lie? The ratings, the voting, right? And so when they come back and Joe Biden wins by a cajillion, jillion, million, trillion, let's look at that stat again. It's gone back down again. I'm not even going to comment about that because we all know what we think about what happened in 2020. But what has happened is people have said, we don't like you anymore and we're not listening to you anymore. We are listening to this person. So what happens to the narcissist is they have to shift blame. They have to point the finger. So this isn't necessarily about RFK. It doesn't matter. If you think that they could have Neil deGrasse Tyson come in and talk about astrophysics, and they would say the same thing about him if he was aligned with Donald Trump. This is all about the fact that they cannot take that the American people have rejected them. Mm-hmm. That's what it is at the end of it. Right? Because I'm looking at, I met RFK. I went and listened to what he had to say. The dude is bang on about
he's been
things.
studying this stuff for decades. He has spent decades of his life studying this and suing a lot of these agencies and organizations who are putting toxins out in our world for our children to breathe in and eat and all of that. I mean, he has been on it for decades of his life, and they act like just because he's not a government expert that like he can't lead this thing. And it's like, well, your government experts are the reason why everyone is fat and sick and like have, cancer and diabetes and all of these issues that we have as a country. Like, you guys are telling them how to eat. You guys are allowing this shit in the foods. So, I mean, you tell me. And so to your point, I think Americans are looking around them going like, maybe we should try something different. I want to play a couple more reactions here from mainstream media. And I am told that they let Brian Stelter back on CNN, I guess. So let's see what he had to say.
Why is someone like RFK able to appeal to millions of people with some theories that doctors say are quacky and wacky? It's because of the trust deficit, and that is job number one for all of us to repair.
He's on the toilet.
Hey, his unemployment probably ran out, okay? Things are tough in Joe Biden's America, so poor Brian needed to just make his set on his toilet.
Listen, I'm not knocking it.
It's called multitasking. Let's play some more CNN just totally ridiculing RFK.
Definitely did not expect to be asking you about fluoride in water 2 days before the election. I was a little shocked that one of their closing arguments for Donald Trump was take the fluoride out of water.
We haven't talked about this at all in the last 700 days.
Why is this a problem?
Suddenly, the thing that's been normal in this country for 80 years, it's like, we're going to get rid of that on day one.
In the tweet last night, on January 20th, the Trump White House will advise all U.S. water systems to remove fluoride from public water. Of course, fluoride is
it's really bad for you.
Particularly the endocrine system.
It's really bad for you.
It's not toxic.
There are some rocks to be thrown,
There was
frankly, at RFK
literally
Jr. about this stuff because some of it actually is just straight up dangerous.
There was just a court case. I had the guy on. It's FAN, Fluoride Action Network, and a couple other, there were several different plaintiffs who sued and won, and a court agreed with them that the evidence is there to prove that fluoride is damaging to us, that fluoride is lowering IQs of our kids. And they're like, well, it's a thing that we decided to do 80 years ago, and surely the science can't change on that. Like, it's like, do you guys hear yourselves? For the party that keeps saying we are the party of science, trust the science, trust the science. The first thing you have to know about science is that it's never settled. You have to constantly keep testing things. You have to constantly keep learning things. And 80 years ago, they made a decision 80 years ago to put something in our water systems. And not one of these dimwits can say, maybe we should look at that again. Maybe the science has changed in 80 years. It blows my mind.
I'm with you, man. How long did it was lead in the water before they figured out it was dangerous? I don't know.
Smoking, didn't they tell you? Go smoke.
Smoke while you're pregnant, too.
Fluorine's interesting. Fluorine's the most electronegative chemical, which means that it's the chemical, it's the element that's most likely to tear an electron away from any other atom and cause free radical damage. So it's highly electrotoxic, basically, electrostatically toxic. So it's different than fluoride because you've added oxygens, you've kind of enhanced the bond, but fluorine itself is nasty toxic.
Yeah.
It's obviously the basic. And so what I've heard about fluoride, and I don't know if this is necessarily true, I'm not a doctor, but that it's good for your enamel and that it will remineralize the enamel on your teeth, but it's bad for the endocrine system. Right. You don't want to get it into your bloodstream, which is why they tell you to spit the toothpaste out and not to swallow it. Mm-hmm. Adding it to the water supply, I still haven't figured out exactly why they do it. I've heard that it was an industrial waste toxin or industrial waste chemical that they were like, what are we going to do with it? I don't know. How do we get rid of it? Let's dump it in the water. Also that it numbs and dulls the populace so that they're less likely to cause an uprising.
And that's what it is. To me, I mean that to me, of course, I'm very cynical. So I jump to like, what is the most evil explanation for this? But that's always what it comes down to for me. Because it's like, what other reason would you have to do it's not just the fluoride, it's all of it. Right? It's all of it's what I just talked about. It's the toxic food dyes that they put in our food. It's the seed oils. It's all of it that they know that there is evidence there. That you put flame retardants and carcinogens in food that isn't allowed in Europe and Japan and all of these other places.
Potassium bromate, is that what it is? It's something that's in yoga mats. They found in bread as like a leavening agent.
Yes.
Oh, dude, seed oils. I just interviewed
wild.
Kate Shanahan. She's like the leading doctor on earth that's investigating seed oils and she calls them vegetable oils, particularly canola oil, rapeseed oil. And what it does is you got your saturated fat in your body, which is fat. It's a carbon chain, but it's saturated with hydrogens, protecting the carbon. And there's the unsaturated fat, and they don't have any hydrogen. So it's just this carbon chain, unsaturated with this protective agent. So these unsaturated fats in the seed oils come into the body, or the seed oils will come into the body. They'll rip electrons away from your cells because they're not saturated. They're just basically very free radicalizing. And then so these electrons are pulled away from your cells. They cause all this free radical damage on the mitochondria in your cells. The mitochondria is supposed to be digesting fat for energy, and it can no longer do its job properly. So it starts digesting sugar out of your bloodstream for energy. So people crave sugar, and that's where all this diabetes is coming from. And they're not digesting their fat properly. And that she said there's like a 5-year half-life on this 2.5-year half-life. Takes 5 years for this stuff to get out of your system. Seed oils. I just had like a granola bar in the dressing room. It's it's canola oil. I'm like, I can taste it. The more I get it out of my system, the more I can taste it when I got it. But I'm getting these things out of the diet, and they've been in the place for like 60 years. Seed oils. They're very easy to make, very cheap to produce. But she said, you want to aim for coconut oil, olive oil, and avocado oil, which are fruits. All three of those things.
Beef tallow.
And beef tallow.
Yep.
Yeah, beef tallow.
We have that at our house. Yeah, and that's all that we those oils that you just used. That you just cited are the only ones that we use.
If she's right, and she is and she's got this book called Dark Calories, all about this. That is the nexus of healing this world is stop eating these industrial fat oils. Like, it's gonna.
And he's on it.
Yeah, I always say that when I go to Malta, so my wife is Maltese, I go to Malta and I will eat pasta and I will drink wine a bit. And I never put on a pound, right? And I eat way more, and it's quantifiable. I see it in myself, and I know I weigh myself. But here's the other point I want to make, Sarah, is that you got to remember they're the party of science, because what they tried to do was separate God from science and faith from science, right? Which up until the early 1900s, there was no separation between science and God. It was seen to be complementary, which it is. And so what they've done now, what is it this is exposing is actually that they are actually a anti-science party, and it was just something to weaponize against people that believe in God. Because what they would do is they'd say, "You're stupid, go to your stupid Bible, we're the party of science." And now what you're seeing now is they're actually not the party of science, they're the party of what's convenient for me to have power.
Yeah. That's a great point. That's a really great point. You're totally right. Okay, I would love to just keep talking about this, but we have to take a break. Got to pay the bills. Okay, I want to thank our sponsor of this segment, Craft Co. Fox and Odin. Okay, Fox and Odin was founded by a new generation of whiskey makers to honor and preserve the masterful legacy of pre-prohibition whiskey blending and finishing. Guys, I'm just gonna cut it straight. I just really like whiskey. Like, we just really love whiskey here, okay? And so I'm encouraging you guys to go to Fox and Odin, check them out. You can use promo code America for free shipping. That is foxandoden.com, promo code America. So with this, all of these new nominees come confirmations, right? Or not, we'll see. But we have this new Senate Majority Leader who is going to enter into January with 51% Liberty score, John Thune. And so the question now becomes, you've got RFK Jr., who we just talked about. You've got Matt Gaetz, who is a highly controversial figure, apparently. You've got Tulsi Gabbard. You've got Pete Hegseth. You've got all of these people who the left has already been saying they're very controversial. Tulsi's a Russian asset. Pete Hegseth is, just a Fox host. He doesn't know anything. In fact, I heard someone on MSNBC call him a white supremacist with absolutely no sort of evidence. And I'm like, sue the shit out of this woman, please, should. Pete. Sue her. And so you have this building opposition to all of these people. Well, John Thune says that he is willing to use anything on the table, including recess appointments, in order to confirm all of these people. Watch.
So you've said that you would do recess appointments if it came to that. What's the threshold for getting to that point for recess appointments?
Well, what I said is, Brett, and I think this is that all options are on the table, including recess appointments. Hopefully it doesn't get to that, but we'll find out fairly quickly whether the Democrats want to play ball or not. And I think part of it is getting these folks. We'll start having confirmation hearings as soon as the new Senate is sworn in January. President takes the oath of office January 20th. By the time he takes the oath of office, hopefully a lot of those nominees will be through their confirmation hearings and will be ready to act on them on the Senate floor. And then it's a question of how much do the Democrats resist or object or try to block those nominations from going forward. And we're going to grind them out. I mean, we're just going to keep consistently moving, and we'll see what kind of cooperation we get. And then we'll, like I said, we'll make decisions about where do we go from there.
So I don't think you can walk those words back, right? And we've got the House and we've got the Senate, we've got the mandate. So I don't how do you undo those words? Now, in particular with Matt Gaetz, too, I already have heard that Republicans were coming out in opposition to him. So this is going to be a very quick test of John Thune to see if what he's really made of when he's going to go on Fox News and say we're going to grind this out and get every single one of these appointments through. I don't know. Whoa, if true, I will just say Matt Gaetz is Attorney General. Tulsi Gabbard, not a Russian asset, by the way. RFK, I mean, this is the dream team. If they can get it through, all indications point that they're going to.
Well, I'm just curious, when did Tulsi become a Russian asset? Was that before or after she was on stage at the DNC?
It was actually after.
Oh.
Yeah, it was when she left her post at the DNC and decided to endorse Bernie Sanders against Hillary Clinton because Hillary Clinton is such an evil bitch. Tulsi decided I can't just stay silent and neutral. And it was at that point that Hillary Clinton in 2019 branded her a Russian asset.
She does that quite a bit, doesn't she?
She sure does. Anytime there's someone running against her or threatening her position, they become a Russian asset. Isn't that interesting?
It is very interesting.
Because she also called Jill Stein a Russian asset at the time.
Funny.
Everyone who doesn't agree with me is either a Russian asset or Hitler.
Imagine Bill, he's having breakfast and he's, what do you want for breakfast, Bill? He goes, I think I'll have pancakes. And she goes, well, I think we should have an omelet. And he goes, well, I think we should have pancakes. And she goes, you're a Russian asset. You're a Russian asset.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating to watch them just constantly.
They do. We've lost any kind of normalcy in just disagreeing.
Mm-hmm.
It's boom. It's all the way over, right? It's oh, I disagree with you. I kill you. I mean, that's where we go now, right?
Well, I mean, you can't even make the argument that it's an electoral college issue because Donald Trump, with all of this agenda, with these people next to him, on the stage next to him at his rallies, he won the popular vote. The people have spoken. Like it or not, suck it up. This is his team that he wants to assemble. The people chose him. Any opposition to that, I mean, these people, especially Republicans, are just asking to be primaried into oblivion.
Yeah, that's what actually Tim Pool tweeted that out. I work with him pretty closely. He said any
Do
Republican that, yeah, I do actually. Any Republican, he's going to throw the full force of weight of his political, notoriety.
Elon Musk said it too.
Primary. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I don't know really what the process is. How often do people get nominated and not get put through? Is that common, or is it like 1 out of every 5? Is it 1 out of 30? Is it 1 out of 100? I don't know
the statistic.
Well, with the Democrats, like our weak Republicans always let him go in. I mean, there was like 20 that voted for Merrick Garland, who's a complete disaster. So I don't know. I have my thoughts on Matt Gaetz.
Okay.
What up, Matt?
I'm not entirely sure whether he'll make it through.
See, I just don't get that, because why already resign if there are questions on whether or not you're going to make it through?
I don't know. It's just a really weird one for me.
Me too. I mean, I would love it if he got through, but I'm just like, there are so many different blockades I'm watching get put up. It's like, why did you already turn in your resignation?
Yeah, he resigned 2 days ago or something.
Yeah. As soon as it was announced.
It's interesting. I just thought that same thing today. I don't want to. Matt's. I know him personally very well.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah, me too.
I like him.
He's pissed off, according to the news that I was reading. He's pissed off people in the Republican Party that are corrupt, working for the deep state or whatever, this imperial strategy, or the Democrats. And so there are enough people. But I don't think it matters personally. I think he's got the gig.
He did a documentary with us that was exposing insider trading, and he went down the hallways, and it was Republican or Democrat. He was naming all. He's like, this guy has increased his portfolio by this amount. Republican. This guy over here in this hallway is on this committee, and he did it too. He's just naming all of them, which is why they hate him.
You want a nonpartisan attorney general, that's for sure.
Right, exactly.
If he's pissing both parties off, he's probably doing a good job.
Exactly right.
And so, I mean, we know he's going to burn it down. I don't know. I just he's the one. If to me, if they're going to take a hit, like if they're going to go after somebody, they're going to go after him.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I agree.
Just think
that.
I agree. So we'll see how it all shakes out. All right, we got to take another quick break here. I want to thank our sponsor this segment, Bonhoeffer, Angel Studios, actually. So they are releasing this new movie, Bonhoeffer. Okay, it's releasing November 22nd. If you don't know who the guy is, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, go check him out. You should, okay? And so they are asking, Angel Studios is participating in the parallel economy. They've got a ton of great movies. This is the latest one. Make sure that you go check out showtimes right now. Angel.com/Sarah. That is angel.com/Sarah. All right, breaking news today. We were just talking about Alex Jones and what's happening over there at Infowars. Infowars has, at least temporarily, I don't know, been returned to Alex Jones. Apparently the sale was blocked by a federal judge because the whole thing was freaking fake. Here is Alex's announcement about that. Watch.
Then I get the call that the judge could do an emergency hearing now today. And a lot more I'm not going to get into yet. And then 3 minutes before we go live, this has been going on for hours. I hadn't been told because people are busy. The U.S. trustee, Chris Murray, calls and says, look, I made a mistake. We shouldn't have shut down Infowars. We shouldn't have turned off the broadcast. The judge said I didn't have the authority. You can go back to your studios. We're putting Infowars back up. Now let's put it on screen. Infowars.com is back up live. If that isn't proof to everybody what I'm saying here, there it is. They put it back up 15 minutes ago, right as we went live. And they went in there and flipped back on the satellites. I'm told the power's on. They're like, come back, come back, come back.
I mean, the whole process was a sham. The whole thing was illegal. They didn't even sell it. We talked about this yesterday, Ian. They didn't even sell it to the highest bidder.
Yeah, they sold it to the best bidder, according to Al. That's what they said.
What does that even mean?
The Onion. And they didn't even have the money. They said that they were going to use money from Alex's future earnings to be able to pay for it. So they didn't even have the money. You had a higher bidder with Roger Stone and his coalition of people who were able to provide the Sandy Hook families with more money if that's what it's all about. They chose not to, and instead chose to take the person or the entity who would try to silence Alex Jones. I don't know. They clearly have never met the guy because he's not going down without a fight. And so we have good news today, and we'll take it with Alex and what they're trying to do to him over at Infowars.
So what does it look like? Is it Roger Stone officially? He's putting together a bunch of money to buy the company. Has it been said? I think Alex isn't allowed to say it out loud.
Well, they said it yesterday on his broadcast. He had Roger Stone on.
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, and when this all happened, Roger Stone already had indicated. In fact, I texted one of my friends and I was like, "Shh, can we go? Do you want to go in on this with me?" I was like, I would love to. So I do know that they have publicly said that they were going to do it. So what they're doing to this man is just so evil and criminal. And I feel like if this judge overturned it, he at least sees that. Maybe there's a chance that a little bit of this gets course corrected. I mean, he's still going to owe them. That's already said and done. It's on appeal, but who knows how much he's going to have to go through before the appeal works its way through the process. But in the meantime, they're not stopping their attacks on him.
It's like a glimpse at good and evil, because it's like how evil entities will just kick the door down and take it.
Right.
If they want.
Yeah.
But then it's like it started to happen, but then it was exposed that was what was happening, and it retracted. And then the judge of honor came in and was like, well, we have to abide by the law in this situation, which is a good law. And so the evil receded. And you're like, see, like it wasn't just one happened and then we were gaslit into believing it was right. It started to happen and then it was shown to be wrong. Mm-hmm. That was wild.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't think that would have happened if Trump hadn't won.
And that's why I'm saying, there's a spiritual shift.
Gone.
Yeah, there's a spiritual shift that has happened.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is part of that.
100%. I mean, look, what's difficult to watch is when you watch Alex like that, you can see it's emotional for him. I mean, he's a badass.
Yes.
But you can, I'm watching that and I'm like, man, this guy created this from nothing.
It's decades of his hard work.
Him.
Yeah.
And
but that's the point.
But that is the point.
Yeah.
That is the point. And again, it's the corruption is so bad. As you said, what does the best bidder mean? Like, if you are trying to get the most money, get the most money. That's it. But it's never about that. Mm-hmm. And again, thank God that the system worked eventually. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we've got a giant orange hammer that's there saying, hey, if you try this, I'm going to intervene now.
I thought about the same thing about Trump winning the election, because I was really tasting the black pill. I mean, I'm a gray Jedi. I've got the black and the white within me, and I cannot shake either. It's just part of what I am now. But I was like, okay, votes are going to get tweaked behind the scenes, and there's going to be malfeasance, and it's going to be a common. Like, that was just ready for it. And then reality struck, and the vote, we're here for a reason. Humanity's gotten to this point because of righteousness. That's why we're still alive and functioning as a society. And it's like, it can work. It's supposed to work. Democracy, republicanism, it's supposed to work. It does. It has got us to this point. And it can. It can beat out corrupt, technocrats. It might get to a point where the technocrats have attempted complete control, but maybe not.
I'm telling you, we're on the verge of something really great in this country. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
Happy weekend.